Today on Hands on Photography, we are getting close to the end of the year, which means we're getting close to the beginning of the next year, which also means it's time for a little bit of reinventing yourself, rebranding yourself. And how can you do that? With some good old headshots. And what does that mean for the show? I have an amazing photographer on the show that's going to talk about headshots and walk us through his process of getting the most out of your model to really make them shine in that portrait or headshot session. And I'm talking about the amazing Mr. Peter Adams. That's coming up next. Y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Hands on Photography is brought to you by BetterHelp. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/hop. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and this is Hands on Photography here on TWiT TV. Hope y'all are doing well. I am unbelievable as always. I'd love to sit down and chat with all of you to share different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better post processor. And every now and then I get that awesome honor and glory to be able to sit down with other professional photographers that are absolutely killing it in this industry. And they allow me the opportunity to take in some pearls of wisdom that's going to help me get better and it's going to help you get better. And that's what we're going to do today. I want to go ahead and introduce to you someone that's already been on the TWiT network before. So he's already got that fame going for him, but he's an amazing photographer. And I'm talking about Mr. Peter Adams. How you doing, my man?
Good, man. Really good. So glad to be here. Get some of your awesome energy this morning.
Well, I call that caffeine, if that's what you're talking about.
I'll get some of that later, but I'll just take a little main line from Ant here.
I am so honored to have you on, sir. And like I said, you've been on the network before. I am the technical director for MacBreak Weekly, which is our open source show on the network, hosted by Mr. Doc Searles, amongst others. And he had you on to talk about the faces of open source and your photography project and that. And I saw your work, and then I started stalking you on Instagram, and I was like, holy moly, I want this man on our show here so he can drop some knowledge and just share some different tips and tricks, because everybody here listening and watching Hands on Photography, they're either getting started with photography, right, or they're sort of intermediate and just trying to sharpen their skills up. And right, for you, I wanted to just take time to focus on the world of headshots and portraiture, because right now at the time of recording this, we're getting to the end of the year. You know, this is getting into holiday season, which usually means people are wrapping things up and they're starting to think ahead for the next year. And when you get into that next year, that's when you start to say, hey, this is when I'm going to rebrand myself or reinvent myself. And as a photographer, I'm like, yeah, let's rebrand yourself. Let's reinvent yourself. I can help you with that, you know, and I know that's pretty much how you're rolling too. You say, hey, I'm your guy. Let's do some headshots. Let's do some portraits to really set you apart. But I want, in addition to talking about that, I'm also going to show off some of your work too, because it's just beautiful. Cool. But before we get into that, you tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, how'd you get started? I'm not going to say, well, when's the first time you picked up a camera? But it's okay. Something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I'll give you the quick origin story. I was a photo geek in high school. Spent more time in the darkroom on the weekends than probably anything else. And went off to college, and when I got to college, I thought I would graduate and come from New York. So I thought I'd come back to New York and become a photojournalist. And at the time I was interning at Bloomberg Business News.
Nice.
So I was in a newsroom, in the summers and really getting a taste for what it meant to be a journalist. And I just thought I'd be a photojournalist. But in 1993, 94-ish, I got introduced to the web, basically. And started building websites, very sort of early on, mostly to show my photography. I figured, this web thing looks really cool. This would be a great way to show my photos.
Right.
So back in '94, I put up a small website. I started a little magazine at college. I got into it. Then I graduated. I got recruited to do web stuff, and 15 years later, I had a career in technology, doing a whole bunch of startups and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then decided, I really need to get back to what I love to do. So I left left working in the technology industry basically in order to photograph it, and went back to photography full time, and have been focused on reportage and portraiture and commercial work and editorial assignments and everything that a working photographer does nowadays to keep clicking that shutter every day.
Right.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Now, with all of that said, it still goes without saying that this is still the pandemic that we're dealing with. You've been doing this for a very long time, so you've had the I guess we can call it the benefit and luxury of having an established name for people that are looking for photographers. What's it been like for you during this pandemic? A lot of people had to sort of reinvent themselves and say, you know what, I need to pivot more so into doing like video content or doing more stock photography and things like that. What was it like for you during the pandemic?
I mean, it was slow. I mean, those first 6 months of it were really, really dead. Mm-hmm. It turns out it's hard to be a portrait photographer in a pandemic.
Right. Especially when they want you to wear masks all the time too.
Wear masks and people don't want to be in the same room with you. And it just makes it hard to take a really good picture when you can't be in the same room and everybody's got to wear masks. But, so it was slow, I also do a lot of my own stories and reportage work. So, at the end of 2020 was actually really busy for me just because of the election cycle. Oh yeah. I did a lot of political stories, a lot of election coverage and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then, this last year in 2021, it's definitely picked up a lot, but it's still down from where it was. And, I think it'll come back. But one thing that actually came back quite a bit in 2021 was portraiture work, especially headshots. Yeah. Because everybody had grown their hair and hadn't seen each other in a year and a half. And, they were coming out of isolation after getting a vaccine or whatever, and people needed new headshots. They literally physically looked different. They changed their style. They changed their hair length, their hair color, their eye color. It's people really needed to rebrand. And, so that was an unexpected, sort of boom of the pandemic times for doing portraiture and headshots.
Oh man, I can totally see that. It makes a lot of sense. Because I know I've changed from being locked down and yep. It was a whole different mindset during the pandemic, and it's sort of nice that we can see a little bit of the sun shining out on the horizon. There's some hope, but we still got a ways to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to take a little bit more time, and I think it will come back. Things will ebb and flow, but it'll be different. Like I said, mm-hmm. the type of work, the assignments, the commissions. They're changing, and they're gonna. You're gonna have a different mix. So, my advice to just photographers is just be flexible. Don't say no to things that you haven't thought of before. Really, take a look at them and explore and see if you can make it work. It's a good time to experiment.
Do you mess around with video any?
I do very little video. It's hard enough for me to take one frame, one good frame, let alone 30 frames a second. So I don't do a lot of video. Clients are asking me though. This last year, some clients were asking me, "Hey, can you do a little video while you're on site, or on location?" And a lot of times I'll try to have an assistant do it, or if it warrants, partner with somebody and bring in, a really good videographer, to cover that aspect of it, because it's not something one person can really do well. I think, unless the client is willing to pay for
takes
a whole nother day of shoot and a whole nother equipment budget. So, it's not, I think clients sometimes go into it thinking, I'll save money and have the photographer do it. And I think, in very, very, very few cases does that ever work out.
Yeah, it's a whole separate process, a whole mode of operation. Totally. Doing it. I do like the local sports scene, the high school here, and they've been wanting me to shoot images for the papers and for their internal stuff and whatnot. And one time I shot a little quick video clip, and so now they're like, "Ooh, can you do more of those?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's going to cost you." It's a whole different process in addition to doing the other stuff that you all wanted me to do. So yeah, exactly. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I love it. It's a lot of work at the camera. It's a lot of work on location, but it's a whole mess of time when you get it back. When you get it back home, when you get it back to the studio, and you've got to process it and edit it. Getting it off the SSD, and then you're hoping, okay, computer, please don't crash because I have this high resolution video footage on here. Please don't blow up. Thank you.
Right. Exactly. Whole nother world.
Well, I want to go ahead and transition into looking at some of your images. Your website, peteradamsphoto.com, is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And there's a handful of shots that I wanted to just sort of walk through. They're all headshots or portraitures of some sort, but I can see a different approach, but I'm curious to just sort of pick your brain and hear what your thoughts were when walking through and framing up the shots. I'm not here to critique your shots. That's not what this is about. Sure. But I'm just curious. Just want to see, what exactly was Mr. Adams thinking here? You know? This episode of Hands On Photography is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes with your happiness? Check out BetterHelp.com/hop. Yo, listen. We definitely need to take a grip of our mental health today, folks. It's now more than ever. And I got to tell you, the platform BetterHelp definitely makes this something super duper easy to sign up, get yourself squared away with a counselor that's really going to help you get things in order and meet your needs with regards to mental health care. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You're connected in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient, and you can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's ridiculously fast. Now, please be aware, this is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. Send a message to your counselor anytime. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available too. The service is available for clients all around the world. You can find the particular expertise you need online. You don't have to limit yourself to the counselors that are just located in your geographic area. You'll find licensed professionals and counselors who specialize in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflicts, LGBTQ matters, grief, self-esteem, a myriad list of items to consider, folks. Anything you share is confidential, convenient, professional, and affordable. Check out the testimonials posted daily on their website. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states here in the US. That's a lot of people. That's awesome. I want you to start living a happier life today. So as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at BetterHelp.com/hop. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/hop. betterhelp.com/hop. And I appreciate BetterHelp for their support of the show. All right.
Yes.
So now, again, we've talked about you photographing a lot of the folks in the open source community that are pioneers for technology. And Mr. Guido here is definitely one. Been actually trying to get him on Floss Weekly, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, this photo here. All right. Standard headshot, straight onto the camera, high key, ridiculous amount of detail in these images. Are you using like medium format or are you using like a super high res full frame?
That's a good question. No, it's digital medium format.
Right.
I shoot 99% of my portraits with phase 1 camera.
Ah, beautiful. That explains it. Because as we walk through the rest of these, that our viewers are going to see just how amazing the details are on these. But when you're setting up for headshots and someone walks up and says, "Hey, I need something to have for my corporate branding," or what have you, whether it's a CEO or marketing person or what have you, what is the thought when they walk in and say, "Okay, how can I make my work fit for what they're needing at the particular time?" So like say Guido is just wanting to, and I know this isn't the case for him, but let's say Mr. Guido was wanting to have something that's out there just for promotional purposes that says, "Hey, I am a pioneer in the world of computer technology. Let's talk. Let's have a sit down." What is your thoughts when it comes to something like that?
Well, for that type of imagery, a lot of thought has to go into it before they even show up at the studio, right? Or on location. It may make sense to be location. So really, the first part of the conversation is just trying to figure out exactly why they need the image, what's the image going to be used for, and what are the things they're really trying to convey and project, with the image. Because at the end of the day, I'm just if they're hiring and commissioning me to do that work, I'm really an extension, of their brand at that point. I'm just trying to produce imagery that is going to project their brand, in a way, that makes sense. Some clients will come to me and say, I don't really know. I'm looking for your style, to add to my brand, and that's fine too. I'll go that direction. But a lot of clients are really looking to, further their brand, project their brand. So really understanding that, what are the constraints? How is it going to be used? Is the image, is a location image better than a studio shot? Are they going to use this? Are they going to use the headshot for conferences, for printed material, and online, social media? And if it's the latter, like social media and conferences, I tend to do high key work just because I think, and by high key I mean like a white, a knocked out background, white background, and I just find that communicates really, really well online.
The high key aspect is I was going to touch on that momentarily, but you went in and brought it up. Yeah, high key seems to be the standard when it comes to those corporate headshots, right?
Well, it's a style. I would say it goes in and out of favor. I tend to do a lot of high key work, just because it's sort of very synonymous with my style. But I've seen clients kind of drift in and out of it. I think that it works really well online, just because there's so much noise and so much clutter, and you can't really control where the image is going to show up all the time.
Right.
So I think people have figured out that, high key makes a lot of sense in terms of getting your image used in a wide variety of places. At least have some high key as part of your portfolio of images.
We talked about high key photography. I was trying to remember the episode, but we talked about it on episode 54 of Hands-On Photography. So folks, if you're not caught up or need a refresher, go back and check that out. twit.tv/hop, episode 54. And I'll walk you through. I did a bit of a on the set, if you will, just walking through, setting up the lighting and understanding the differences. Because again, if you can knock out high key, man, whew, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this next image. Is in a similar vein. It's another headshot, but you decided with this image, you don't want him looking at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like you're still just using one high key lighting on this and no extra fill or anything like that. What was your thoughts on this type of image?
Well, there is actually a little fill there. It's very subtle.
I see it now, right?
Yeah, it's very subtle. And sometimes the monitors just don't reproduce it quite as well either. But my thought is, when I get somebody into the studio, we'll do a range of things. We'll do a range of shots. They'll come in, they'll leave with, 3 or 4 or 5 different types of images.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, you want something that can be used potentially editorially, you want something that can be used, in a conference or a corporate setting. So, in this was just one of the takes that we did that day, and we did a whole bunch of 3/4 body shots and full body shots as well. But I love his goatee, man. I mean, his goatee was just and I just felt like it was just kind of fierce, and just a little mystery with the shadow, just angling him and angling the light. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit creates that shadow and that fall off on his face, and I just felt like it really worked with his look.
Now, with the lighting that you're doing, what types of modifiers are you using? Because all of these shots have a bit of soft light to it. There's hardly any hard shadows showing up on your models here. So you're clearly using some sort of a modifier. What's your modifier of choice?
Yeah, I mean, my go-to modifier for a key light is a beauty dish.
Okay.
So I use a beauty dish pretty extensively, or sometimes I'll use a shoot through, depending on a shoot through umbrella, depending on what's going on. But something those two lights tend to be like a nice mix of hard and soft. Mm-hmm. It's not your soft lighter, which I actually I'll turn around. I'll use an indirect, an umbrella with a diffusion over it, either a soft lighter or I forget the one. I don't have the soft lighter, I think, but it's basically an umbrella with diffusion sock over it, and I tend to use that as fill. Mm-hmm. And that to me, that's a really large source. That's like a 60-inch umbrella, and I tend to put that just directly behind me when I'm shooting.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense, because I struggle with beauty dish. I'm not gonna lie. I always tend to get really, really hard shadows with a beauty dish, no matter what I do. So I sort of opt for something larger. I tend to go with like at least 36-inch softbox, something really, really wide or bigger if I'm going to shoot something, because it seems like that's just, I guess it's the whole inverse square thing within the relative size of your light source versus the subject. So yeah, I guess that all makes sense, but I just can't dial in a beauty dish, and I'm so jealous.
Well, I don't think you're alone in that. I struggled to master the beauty dish, as well, when I was first starting to work with it. And what I found is not all beauty dishes are created equal.
Right. Some of them are more specular.
Some of them are more specular. Some of them are deeper. Mm-hmm. Some of them have reflectors that are larger. When the light comes through and it hits the reflector and then bounces back into the beauty dish. Mm. Some have large reflectors. Some have reflectors that are partially translucent.
Oh boy, I hadn't seen that.
The beauty dish I use is a Mola. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but it's not just the simple salad bowl. It's like a salad bowl that has waves in it.
Huh.
Yeah. So, there's lots of different kinds of beauty dishes, and there's also different size beauty dishes. That's the other thing. There's
Wait a minute. So if it's got this like little grooves on the inside of it,
it's not like little grooves. It's like it has like, imagine it's like a smaller salad bowl attached to a bigger salad bowl.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
You can look it up. Mola is a company that makes that style.
And see, now I'm just trying to visualize light passing through it, and it,
and that beauty the beauty dish I use is it's all white interior, so it's not a silver specular, which tends to be much softer.
Okay.
Yeah. Sweet. So you can play with it. You got to really dial in your modifiers, to what your taste is.
Yeah, that's maybe I'll get it right one of these days.
It's just experimenting, man. It's just experimenting.
Now let's take a look at this shot, because now this is a bit of a transition here. Okay, we've looked at two portraits, black and white.
Yep.
And now we have the singer. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Tamara James.
Yep, that's right, Tamara.
And this one is color. It's still high key with that awesome white background, but it's all in color. And why did you go color here?
She's got pink hair.
There we go. We obviously.
Yeah. No, I mean, we actually did a bunch of black and white ones as well. She's got some cool black and white ones. I did a cool black and white one of her that's in the Faces of Open Source project. But Tamara showed up with this gorgeous pink hair and this great pink this sort of like matching complementary pink outfit, and it just crushed in color, and there was no, sometimes you just see a color picture and you just gotta keep it there. You got to keep it in color. I love to shoot in black and white. I probably shoot more black and white than I do color, but sometimes you see the color and it communicates and it's there and you just got to go with it.
So black and white is your preference?
I wouldn't say it's my preference. My feeling on the subject is, if the color doesn't play a role in the photograph, then it should be black and white.
Okay.
I just that tends to be a rule that I keep coming back to. Does this need to be color? Is the color participating? Is it helping communicate the story in some way, shape, or form? Or is it a distraction? And if it's a distraction, black and white is a great way to eliminate that. Right.
Yeah. And see, I was curious about that because I had my own theory. I saw this image in this beautiful color, and then this next image here, it's beautiful and in color, and then this portrait was in color. So my first theory is like, okay, well, she's got pink hair. He's clearly wanting to bring that out. This is an artificial heart, and you can't really tell that in black and white. You can see the chrome, and you can see this little bit of a yellowish goldish color here. I mean, it would make sense that this is in color. And then I got to this portrait of Mr. Mad Dog. Wait a minute, this is in color. This isn't black and white like his other headshots are. So why on this one? It's still with the white background, beautiful high key lighting. Why did you opt for color on this? Is it because of his eyes? Because his eyes scares the crap out of me. Blue eyes scare me. They do. I know I'm weird, but
that's exactly right. I just thought his blue eyes with the slightly desaturated skin and his beard, just the whole tonality of that was just too cool to pass up. so sometimes these things just come down to a preference too of you just really love the color palette and something is communicating. But I really did feel like his eyes were they really needed, the color really needed to shine through on that. He just has these incredibly blue pale eyes.
Man, I swear blue eyes just scare me. I don't know why. So for anybody out there, if you ever meet me in person and you have blue eyes, just note that I will never, ever look you directly in the eyes.
I know a lot of blue eye people. They're good people.
Man, some of my best friends have blue eyes and they know I'm scared to death of them. And they sort of make fun because when I'm speaking to them, I'm usually like looking right here. I look right at their forehead or something. It just scares the mess out of me. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm a weirdo. I know this.
You got to go there, man. You got to lock yourself in a staring contest with a blue-eyed person.
Yeah, then I win.
Yeah.
Now this shot here, this is in color, but this is a bit of a different approach. All right. Yeah. You are clearly on, in a setting for photography. You have your backdrop. You have some flags here on the left and in the right to help manage the light. And you snapped this image and you left it as such. You didn't tighten it up to just only show the bust and up or anything like that. You filled the whole frame with all of your photography gear. And this thing, it looks good, but
thanks.
What made you decide, you know what, I want to show the whole setup and this is what I'm going to publish?
Yeah, well, sometimes I feel like the act of making the photo is sometimes part of the story. Sometimes you get people in front of the camera, and the whole set around them as you're making the photo can sometimes add to the importance of the shot, or to the the sort of iconography of the shot. In this case, Ted was a very accomplished, he's since passed away now, but he was a very, very accomplished engineer and executive. And he, I just felt like, as I got into his president, he was president of SoftBank US for a while. He was at Bell Labs. I mean, this is a man that had just an incredible career and an incredible history. And, I just, sometimes I'll use the set if the framing, and I don't plan it. It's just as I'm taking the photo, I'll pull back and I'll say, wow, all the set is actually adding to is magnifying, if you will, the portrait in some way, shape, or form. And I'll keep it in, and I'll take some wide shots. I'll snap it and I just felt like in this case, we put this whole studio together for him. And sometimes, it just shows the importance of the act of taking his photo. And I just felt like that was a way to communicate that.
And as I'm looking at it, I love it because it still has a bit of a framing to it. Yes, we have the white background that would have worked just right out the gate. But these two flags over here just creates yet another awesome visual frame for this composition, and it totally works. And even in the square cropping, I love this. But yeah, I was just curious, like, why did he decide to do that? Because a lot of folks, they won't do that when you're dealing with someone that's really, really important in this particular industry, but yet you decided to keep it in, and it totally works, even down to seeing your rear lights in the background. I mean, and all of that's just little fine details that just, I freaking love it. Just love it.
Yeah, sometimes it works, not all the time. And the composition, I never set it up with that in mind.
You just go with it.
Sometimes you'll just be shooting and you'll be like, wow, the composition, look at the composition of this. The set itself becomes a character in the photo. And
that's awesome. Now, one thing that I wanted to take away from this, one thing that I have taken away from this, just speaking to you, is you have your models come in and they have their goal and their plan. You analyze the situation far as what the set is, or if it should be out in the environment, something like that. And you say, you know what, we're going to make this work because we want the headshot to be, timeless and iconic and not look like someone's driver's license at the DMV. Right. Because
always the goal.
Yeah. Because it unfortunately, headshots can turn into that. You need to be able to find that nuance of getting their posing just right, even down to facial expressions, to where it doesn't look like a mugshot, like they just stole a carton of milk somewhere. When it comes to like just facial expressions, do you have any tips on that you can share with our listeners if they're finding themselves on a shoot, and the person that's wanting to be photographed, it's just not coming through. You know, sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect. Do you have any tips to be able to get them to, all right, you need to be one with this camera because I'm trying to make you shine, but you got to help me out a little bit here. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I have a few things. You know, I mean, the first thing is, you know, as the photographer, you know, we can't make the photo without the subject. You know? So it's definitely a collaboration, but at the same time, it's a lopsided collaboration. I mean, we have all the power. We're sitting there with the camera. We're sitting there deciding when to you know, how the person is depicted, the moment to press the shutter, and you know, so it's really up to us. We have a big responsibility, I feel, to our subjects. And, you know, if they're struggling when they get in front of a camera, you know, that's just normal because most subjects hate having their photo taken, you know, even celebrity subjects. Right. You know, they have to do it for work. You know, it happens so much, but most people don't like going and sitting in front of a camera in a photo studio. There's a novelty to it once or twice, but most people generally don't like having their photo taken. So we have a responsibility to make them feel comfortable and to get them past any anxiety or trepidation they have so that you can get to an authentic expression, an authentic emotion. You know, sometimes the photo is about anxiety, and in which case, you know, photo studios are full of that. You got no problem. But most of the time, especially when you're doing corporate work or you're doing headshots for people, you're really trying to get past that anxiety and get them to be comfortable. A couple things I found really help with that. And this is something that, you know, I'm always learning myself and perfecting. But the first is do your research, you know, have an interesting conversation. Nothing relaxes people to know that you have actually done a bunch of research and care about this photo shoot, care about depicting them to the point that you have done enough research to know what their background is and understand what it is that they do. You know, going that extra mile really puts people at ease because they say, oh, well, this photographer isn't just here to make a quick buck and, you know, get a photo and get out. They actually, you know, took the time to learn about what I do and what my career has been. And they're asking me these great questions. And that really disarms people. It really disarms people. So I do your research. You know, be able to have a really interesting conversation with your subject. The other thing that I would say is people like to have a job when they're in front of the camera, you know? So if you just put somebody in front of a camera and say, okay, you know, I'm going to take some photos, they're going to drift around and, you know, unless they're a professional model, right? They don't really know what their job is, right? Their job is to look good, but they don't know how to look good. People don't know really what to do when they get in front of the camera. So you've got to direct, you got to give them a job. And the job would, you know, can be as simple as, you know, imagine you're in a meeting and somebody's presenting at a whiteboard and you're evaluating what they're presenting. Show me how you would stand if you did that. You're going out to lunch, you're waiting online, you know, for your lunch. How do you stand when you're online? You know, what do you know, when you're tired and you're working at your desk, you know, maybe pull over a desk, have them sit down, you know, lean on your arm when you get tired. What do you know, how do you look when you're a little bit tired after a long day, you know, of work? Or put a drink in their hand for a minute and say, you know, have a cocktail for a second, right, or soda, and relax, and then take the drink away real quick and see if you get a different thing. Give them a job, put them in a situation, because the situation is going to allow them to stop focusing on themselves. They have a job to do. They know what to do. They can feel good to know that they're really nailing the job you're asking them to do, as opposed to the amorphous job of, hey, just look good in front of the camera for me. You know, that doesn't work at all.
Stop them from focusing on themselves. That's wild. Now, before we get out of here, I wanted to touch on one more topic, and it's the wonderful world of NFTs.
NFTs, love them.
So okay. I was going to ask, what are your thoughts? So you love them. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them. What I'm showing on the screen now is your NFT collection over on OpenSea of all of these beautiful headshots and portraits, just ridiculous stuff here, man. I freaking love it. But what are your thoughts on NFTs as far as let alone the technology behind it, but the future of digital media, or heck, any media? Because now it seems like people are putting just anything out there as some form of non-fungible token. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm excited about it. I still think it's early days, and I know you're doing some NFTs as well. So, I mean, I think we're all experimenting with it. But what has me excited is that, if you're a photographer, there's a couple ways you can make money. You can be commissioned to, by somebody to produce photos, for them, and, whatever, and produce those photos and license them to them for those particular uses. You can also do your own work. And those NFTs you were showing as part of my Faces of Open Source project, which is all self-generated work. It's people that I contact and I bring into the studio on, on my time, and I photograph them. And I put that out as art onto OpenSea as NFTs as art. And what's exciting about the NFT space for me with regard to the fine art that I'm producing is that it acts very similar to a limited edition print. Yeah. When people want to buy my photographs as fine art, I would traditionally make a big, 30 by 40 print for them, and package that up and send it off, and it's very expensive, and hopefully they have the wall space and all the things that go with that. But as the world is shifting more to digital, people are starting to rethink that. They're starting to do digital displays in homes. They're starting to collect photography from a digital perspective, because the physical, holding on to the physical it's just a whole nother thing. So I look at it as a way to sell essentially digital prints. And a lot of people will ask me and they'll say, well, why would I buy this? I just go to your website and download the JPEG. It's the same exact thing. And the answer is, well, you could, but the same exact thing would be seeing my photo in an exhibition, taking a photo on your iPhone and then printing it out at home. Is that the same thing too? Or getting a poster? Is a poster the same thing as a limited edition fine art print? Right. No, it's not. And the thing that makes NFTs, I think, really, really handy for moving photography and fine art into the digital world is that it's collectible, it's numbered, just like a limited edition print. There's only so many of them. So what you're buying is essentially the, one of X in an edition. I'm not going to, go and produce, another copy of the NFT. The NFT is the NFT. It's there, and you can own that. You could call me and buy a print. It's just another way to commercialize the fine art aspect of our work, I think. So that's exciting. Yeah,
it is. But like I said, I have a bit of a love-hate with it because of the way blockchain is. It's not just one blockchain out there, and I think that makes it difficult for the masses because most people have no idea what dadgum blockchain means. You know? And then you start talking about wallets, and then you start talking about crypto wallets, because you say a wallet, online wallet, to someone, they think PayPal, they think Venmo, Cash App, or what have you, and you say crypto wallet, and you're like, oh, it's on a secured internet, it's encrypted, and it's just
I hear you, man. I mean, don't you think though that's like this sort of the early days part of it though? I mean, some of this stuff is, right now it's very techy. It's very, you got to be in the weeds to figure out how to buy it. You've got to convert cash to Ethereum, and you tell people, hey, convert some cash to Ethereum. They're like, you want me to do a drug deal?
Wait, what?
What are you talking about? And so, I mean, it's people don't understand it. It's not mass market yet. It's going to get there. Don't you think though it's going to get there? Don't you think they're going to smooth some of these edges? And
I think so, because we've said the same thing about a lot lot of stuff in technology. Heck, we've said the same thing about digital photography.
Right.
Film was it.
Right.
There's still people holding on to film and they're not letting that go. But digital has definitely been the way of the world nowadays. Right. So even down to just normal folks being able to do it with whatever phone they have in their hands, so.
Well, I imagine if, you had a 30 by 40 picture frame on your wall that could just load NFTs, and you could change them. And oh, by the way, a lot of people do have that. It's called a OLED,
Yeah. Fancy TV. Yeah.
Fancy TV. So it's starting. You can see the roots of it, but it's going to take some time. I agree. It's going to take some time.
Well, Mr. Adams, this has been unbelievably fun and informative, and just light bulbs went off in my head. I don't know how many times in this conversation, and a couple times I kicked myself because I realized, I should have been doing that, and it would have made that shoot a lot easier, so thank you for dropping these pearls of knowledge on us. Is there anything that you'd like to promote or plug or,
No, just people, just go to my website. You can check out my work there, and all my personal projects are there, and the Faces of Open Source project is there, and as well as a few others. So that's really the best place. I would say just check out the work there.
All right. Well, that's definitely what I'm going to do. So thank you so much again for your time. I really do appreciate you joining me today.
Anytime, man. It's always fun hanging with you. So awesome. Anytime.
Take care, sir. All right, folks. That is, man, I hope you guys had your pen and pad and took some notes, because there's a lot of stuff there that's going to be seriously useful for you as we transition out of closing this year and moving into the new year of just people wanting to reinvent themselves and rebrand themselves. And there's a lot of tips and tricks where you as a photographer are going to be able to help make that happen. So, and if you didn't write it down, thank goodness this is an on-demand podcast and you can go back and rewind. But thank you all, folks, for continuing to support the show. It does mean a lot. If this was your first time catching an episode here, hey, go ahead and consider subscribing. We're available on all those different podcast applications out there. The main one is Apple Podcasts. So go ahead and subscribe there and leave me a star rating, leave me a comment, because it does help me in the rankings and push the show up so other people can discover it. But if you're an iPhone hater, an Apple Podcast hater, that's okay. We know y'all are out there. You can check us out on Spotify. You can check us out on Pocket Cast, or just go to our website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for hands-on photography. And you'll see all of our subscription options there, as well as all of our previous episodes and show notes, including today's show that's going to have a lot of information in it. So thank y'all again for all of the support. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to shoot me an email as hop@twit.tv, or you can just tag me on those social medias. Search for Ant_Pruitt over on Instagram. And you can also find me on Twitter at Ant_Pruitt as well. All right, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you to my man, Mr. Victor, for making me look and sound good, even though I make his job really, really difficult at times. I love you, brother. Thank you so much. Folks, we will see you next time here on Hands on Photography. So y'all know how we do. Safely create and dominate. We'll catch you next time.
No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club TWiT. You even get extras like TWiT Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club TWiT Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support TWiT as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club TWiT from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks.